once again to Caleb Likes Books. Today I have another book review for you, and that is for Misery by Stephen King. This is the fourth Stephen King book I have read, the other three being Salem's Lot, Revival, and Carrie, all three of which I enjoyed a lot. I decided to read this book, first of all, because it's one that is very popular and I wanted to read eventually, but the main reason why I read this one now is because my friend Jonathan Cohn, who is also a booktuber, you can go check out his channel, he does great stuff over there, he was going to be reading this book, and we both agreed. At the time I didn't have this, but he had already decided he was going to read this, and he said if I could get this book in time for when he was going to read it, we could read it together and buddy read it. It is what we ended up doing. I got this book last month, and so I was like, okay, I can buddy read this with you in October. And so that's what we did. And so it was fun to, we decided not to do a video together about it, but we have had some discussions together talking about this book, which has been a lot of fun. And so I was looking forward to reading this one because I have really enjoyed the three Stephen King books I've read so far, but this one was going to be a little different. This one is much more like realistic than the other ones. All the other three that I've read have had some kind of supernatural element to them, whether it be vampires or kind of cosmic horror type stuff or whatever it may be. Whereas this is like pure, like realistic horror. So I thought it would be something kind of interesting and different. And I will say when I started the book, I wasn't quite feeling it, but as it went on, it really became a book that I loved a lot. I don't know that I'd say it's my favorite of Stephen King's books I've read so far. I would say Carrie and Revival are still fighting for that top spot. And I don't know if I'd say I liked it better than Salem's Lot or not, but it is certainly at minimum on the level of Salem's Lot for me. I really enjoyed it a lot. So as far as stuff I enjoyed about this book, of which there are several things, first of all, the premise is interesting, so I'll talk briefly about that. So you have Paul Sheldon, who is an author. Particularly, he is most well known for his series of books about the character named Misery, who in this last book of Misery books that he wrote, he killed her off, and people are not too happy about it, but he's excited that he gets to write about other stuff now. And he ends up having an accident and is taken in by his self-proclaimed '1 fan, Annie Wilkins, who is not completely she's got some problems, and she basically kidnaps him for a significant length of time, and forces him to write another Misery novel in which she comes back, everything's good, she's alive, and just another Misery book, all just for her, his #1 fan. And over the course of this book, he is subjected to some rather unpleasant things as he is being basically held captive by this person. So that itself is a pretty interesting premise, and I enjoyed multiple different parts of it. First of all, I enjoyed Paul as a character. I enjoyed Annie as well. Their dynamic was very interesting, and I think Annie was a very effective villain in this book because she is very unpredictable, and you see Paul doing or saying things, and you never really know how she's going to respond. It made it very tense and very like on the edge of your seat, like how is this going to actually go, which I really enjoyed about it. I also really enjoyed on some level the being held captive aspect of it. I didn't enjoy it on some level because it made me feel very uncomfortable at some points, but that also contributed to the feeling of tension and horror and just like just that side of it was very well done. I also really liked the writing aspect of this book. Of course, Paul in this book is thinking or talking a lot about his writing and also spending a lot of this book writing his new book. And I really enjoyed seeing him working through that process of like, okay, I have worked myself into this situation that should be impossible to get out of. Like, he killed off this character, and he's trying to figure out, okay, how can I bring her back in a way that will appease Annie, because he needs to do it in a very particular way in order for her to accept it, basically. and actually write a story that she will enjoy and make sure that he doesn't do anything while writing it that is going to upset her, basically. Because if he does upset her, then things don't go too well. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well, the writing aspect. The thing I think this book does best is the horror itself. You know, like I said, this is a very realistic book. It's not supernatural horror or anything like that. And while I tend to prefer books in general, but also horror included in that have some kind of fantastical aspect to them, so I will take a book about, you know, vampires or werewolves, or, you know, going into other genres. Like I'll take a fantasy or a sci-fi book over like a you know, a realistic fiction type book or something like that. Even though that is the case and this book isn't quite my particular taste, the way that it handled its horror was so well done, because it was consistently tense, consistently like I never knew what was going to happen next, and really had a palpable sense of dread to it that I really enjoyed, and also didn't enjoy at the same time because it was rather intense. You know, this is one of those books where you can see this kind of thing actually happening, which I think makes the horror even more intense, I guess, is the best way I can put it. Makes it more palpable, much more visceral, and I think that was really well done. And I also just enjoyed the process of like seeing what was going to happen. As I said, things are quite unpredictable in this book. There was never any point where I was like, I knew things were going to go pretty badly for Paul, but I was never at any point in this book like, I know what's going to happen next. Like I was always like, I have no idea where this is going to be going. And so I enjoyed seeing the way the story unfolded. As far as negative points with this book, there aren't many. I really enjoyed this book a lot. I will say it did take some time to really hook me. I think there's a chunk of this book while he's captured, because he starts the book being already held captive. And there's a portion between that and when she says, "You need to write me this book," that didn't really grab me. You know, it was well done, it was well written, I enjoyed reading it, I enjoy Stephen King, but it was not quite grabbing me until that point, and at that point I was like, okay, this is where this story is going, I'm into it. So it took me a while to really get invested in this book, but once I did, I was super into it. And also, again, the particular flavor of horror that this book tackles is not my particular kind of thing. It, again, very well done, very effective horror. It's just not to my personal taste, but also the level of discomfort I felt reading this book. I don't think I've felt more uncomfortable reading a book before, at least as of this moment. There were points in this book where I didn't feel good about it. And it, again, super well done. That's probably the intention. So in that sense, very well done on Stephen King's part. It just was not enjoyable to read because it was just so uncomfortable and, you know, just made me feel a way that I don't particularly enjoy feeling. I don't enjoy horror that makes me intensely uncomfortable. I like horror that is just very subtle and you know, just that feeling of dread, things just kind of being a little wrong, a little bit off. Whereas this goes very, I wouldn't say far in the other direction, but very far in the, this is going to be very intensely uncomfortable for you kind of direction, which is not my particular kind of thing, but it's very effective, very well done. And assuming Stephen King wanted you to feel very uncomfortable reading this book, which I can only assume he did, good job. Overall, I really enjoyed this book a lot. It was very, very well done, and just had a good time reading it, even though it did make me very uncomfortable at several points. So as far as a rating out of 10, I'd give Misery, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Really, really good. Again, not quite a favorite for me, but very, very well done, for sure. So that's pretty much it for my review. Let me know in the comments if you have read Misery before, what you thought of it, where it ranks among your favorite Stephen King books, if this is one of your favorites. If it's not one of your favorites, whatever you think of it, let me know in the comments. I'm definitely reading more Stephen King in the future, so I'm curious to see where this one ends up as time goes on. So that's pretty much it for this video, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.